them boy with Thorn, boy.
Roach came up. Roach normally fights at 130. He came up to 135.
Hey, listen, they got a rematch. They got a rematch. That fight was good. And obviously, I've seen a lot of boxers come out and say, Tank lost. When I looked at the scorecard, I think maybe going into round 7, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 7, I think Tank was up on the scorecard.
I expected to see a knockout. I expected to see it come at the hands of Gervonta Tank Davis against a dude that I thought was undersized, that I thought was not on the same level.
Roach is not just your average everyday opponent. Roach is a person who knows Tank, who's been around Tank his whole life. This is a different fight. You can't put Roach to the side like that.
Prominent ESPN analysts, including the likes of Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe, have thoroughly examined the highly debated bout between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, particularly focusing on the surprising outcome. Both analysts expressed genuine shock that the fight, which was expected to end with a definitive knockout, instead concluded as a draw. They had initially anticipated a more dominant performance from Tank, given his knockout power and history of finishing fights decisively. Now, as discussions of a rematch circulate, Smith and Sharpe believe the second meeting between these two skilled fighters will not leave room for doubt. They predict that the rematch will deliver a much clearer and decisive winner. Both fighters are expected to return to the ring with significant adjustments, determined to showcase their evolved strategies and leave no question about who rightfully deserves to claim victory.
I expected to see a knockout. I expected to see it come at the hands of Gervonta Tank Davis against a dude that I thought was undersized, that I thought was not on the same level. And my God, was I wrong. So I thought it was apropos that on this particular day, more than a week after Lamont Roach showed up at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, and let everybody know, yo, I'm no joke either. Y'all don't know who the hell I am. I'm here to reintroduce him to the world. A guy that many believe should be the lightweight champion of the world in the sport of boxing. The one and only Lamont Roach joins me right now.
Lamont Roach delivered a remarkable and calculated performance in his initial clash with Tank Davis, one that exceeded the expectations of many in the boxing community. His sharp technical skills and well-planned strategy allowed him to stand toe-to-toe with one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. Although the fight ended in a draw, Roach undeniably demonstrated that he belongs at the elite level, silencing many critics in the process. Heading into the rematch, Roach now holds the opportunity to fine-tune his tactics, placing a stronger emphasis on his speed, timing, and precision to convincingly secure the win. By implementing minor but crucial adjustments and maintaining the same level of composure and discipline he displayed in their first meeting, Roach has the chance to deliver an even more dominant performance. His ability to learn from the previous encounter and adapt accordingly will be pivotal in proving his superiority, with the rematch serving as his stage to leave no lingering doubts about his place among the top.
That next game, what do you do that you didn't do the first time? Is that a valid question?
Well, I don't know if he pitched a shutout, but he definitely fought a perfect
game.
Perfect fight for him. For that fight, right? So above and beyond what we've ever seen from him, something that people who knew him and knew him personally knew that he has that in him, but being able to do it on the big stage underneath those lights, that's a whole different thing. He was able to do it. It was packed in there. It was 19,000. I was in the room. I mean, they were literally booing him when he was on the Megatron above the ring. So for him to walk into hostile territory, perform the way that he performed from beginning to end, I mean, I tip my hat. It was amazing. But in terms of pitching a shutout, I don't agree. It was a very, very close fight.
No, but what I mean by that is the perfect fight. Can he elevate from that?
Yeah. I absolutely I understand. So in terms of can he elevate his performance? Yes and no. I don't think he can do anything that he was once he really found his rhythm better, because I think that was literally his catch and shoot, his rolling, his ability to catch those punches, his mindset when he did get touched, his ability to walk through. But I think he could be a little smarter in the way that he cuts off the quadrants of a 12-rounder. Understanding what a 12-rounder and how to fight a 12-rounder is a skill that takes time. You have to go 12 a bunch of times. You have to be world-class guys. Being able to be a little busier for early on to make sure that you understand that you are the B-side. You need to make sure these judges absolutely know without a doubt in their mind that you won that round. Being a little more aggressive early on, letting the hands go a little earlier, putting the exclamation on the points in the early rounds the way they did it the later rounds, I think will make a big difference in how he could actually improve on what he did the first time.
Stephen A. Smith openly admitted that he misjudged Lamont Roach and was quick to offer a public acknowledgement of his mistake. In fact, Smith went so far as to say that not only he, but everyone, owes Roach a sincere apology. Initially, Smith believed Roach was physically too small to pose a real threat to Gervonta Davis, who was renowned for his explosive power in quick knockouts. However, Roach defied expectations in every way. Smith was genuinely stunned to witness Roach appearing to be the physically stronger and more commanding presence in the ring. Throughout the fight, Roach displayed relentless aggression, continually pressing forward, absorbing Davis's hardest punches, and answering back with precision and power of his own. His resilience and unwillingness to back down changed the narrative of the fight entirely.
White, the team right back. I'm believing him. I didn't see him hurt or anything like that. I get that part. I saw him hurt when he got popped with a counter from Lamont Roach and he stumbled backwards because he got hit with a shot while throwing a punch in an earlier round. So I'm certainly not going to do that. Here's the important point to mention. All of us got to stand down and give Lamont Roach an apology. I thought that brother was going to get beat down because I saw a dude that was a bantamweight champion. I said, why are you moving up to fight this guy? Why is Gervonta Davis taking this fight? This guy's too small. What the hell is going on? He was a featherweight champion. You're a lightweight. What the hell is going on? Why would you take that fight? I didn't understand it. What I didn't know is that once Lamont Roach stepped into the ring, he would be the bigger fighter. What I didn't know is that once he was in the ring and he looked like the bigger fighter, he fought like the bigger fighter because, ladies and gentlemen, from opening bell, he walked right to Gervonta Davis. Walked right to him and stayed in his face all night long. If he backed up at all, ladies and gentlemen, it was 5% of the time.
In their first encounter, Lamont Roach exposed what many critics have been pointing out about Tank Davis for years, his long-standing reputation for carefully selecting his opponents. For a significant portion of his career, Tank has been accused of cherry-picking fights that align with his stylistic advantages, avoiding matchups that could present real, unpredictable challenges. However, this time, that strategic selection backfired. Roach entered the ring fully prepared, well-studied, and determined to dismantle the expectations placed upon him. His disciplined approach, paired with a sharp and thoughtful strategy, effectively neutralized Tank's usual game plan. Roach proved that he was not just another name added to Tank's resume but a formidable opponent who could not be underestimated, forcing Tank to realize that his conventional blueprint would not guarantee victory against someone as prepared and composed as Roach.
That fight with Tank and Lamont Roach shows y'all how protected Tank has been for the past several years. And the people saying, oh, Tank know Lamont and he disrespected Lamont because they fought in the amateurs. Man, he was cherry picking Lamont, and really thought he was going to get that win. But Lamont wasn't coming to play around. He stood his ground and fought back. And to be honest, he won the fight. The rematch is going to be a knockout.
Shakur Stevenson, a respected and highly technical boxer, offered his own analysis of Roach's impressive performance. Stevenson emphasized the flawless execution of Roach's fight strategy, highlighting the layers of intelligence Roach brought into the ring. Having previously sparred with Roach, Stevenson had first-hand experience with Roach's ring IQ, defensive sharpness, and adaptability. Confident in Roach's capabilities, Stevenson even backed him to win the fight publicly. Although Tank's speed and explosiveness are undeniable, Stevenson pointed out that Roach's masterful defense significantly limited Tank's offensive rhythm. Roach's ability to anticipate and counter Tank's attacks effectively disrupted Tank's usual dominance, resulting in one of the most tightly contested and tactically fascinating fights in recent memory.
We ain't both saying that's something that y'all would do. You sparred Lamont before, right?
For sure, yeah. Actually, he was the one who got me ready for Oscar Valdez.
Oh, Lamont Roach did?
Lamont Roach was the guy who really got me ready for that fight.
What was the work like?
It was good work. Honestly, that was one of the reasons why I bet tonight. Because I knew what I was in the ring with. Like, I knew that he wasn't no pushover, he wasn't no slouch. And when I seen that, I said, okay, when he fight Tank, I know that it's gonna be the fight that I assumed it to be honest.
Hold on, because you was saying that, I ain't gonna lie, you was on Twitter been saying, like, you feel like, I don't know if you didn't say Lamont was gonna win, but you just kept making it like, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know what you were saying, but you kept alluding to Lamont was gonna do something. So, like, you saying you seen this, the way the fight played out based on how your sparring session went?
I'm not gonna say how the sparring session went just because of the fact that I'm a different fighter than what Tank is.
Yeah.
And it's like sparring and fighting, two different things. But I knew what I was up against when I was sparring him. Like, I knew the skill level. And I also, like, I watch boxing, so I'll go back and watch. And these guys go back and watch, and they looking like, okay, well, he was in front of this guy, so it was this, but styles make fights. And I know that Tank is shorter. He's fast, but Lamont got good defense. And I just knew exactly how that fight was gonna go. I told everybody that Lamont was gonna be the one pushing forward. Tank was gonna be the boxer, and it literally looked exactly how I thought it was gonna look.
How did you see the actual fight? Like, let's break it down, because you was ringside. You sat, I saw you on Twitter. They showed the videos of you ringside.
Stevenson expanded further on his assessment, expressing that Tank Davis's overall approach in this fight appeared lackluster and, at times, uninspired. While Stevenson acknowledged that Tank did enjoy a few standout moments where his natural talent shone through, he emphasized that Roach displayed a more measured, precise, and consistent offensive strategy across the entirety of the bout. Stevenson strongly felt that Roach's calculated pressure and well-timed counterpunches gave him the upper hand throughout the fight. Although Tank managed to land some powerful shots, Stevenson argued they were not frequent nor decisive enough to sway the fight convincingly in Tank's favor. From Stevenson's perspective, Roach made a strong case for the victory through sustained effort and sharp execution.
Winning, I really felt like he was in control of the fight. I think Tank had good moments, but I feel like when he was boxing boring, he was more so in control. That's when he was kind of like in control of the fight for me. And when he kind of like tried to fight, I felt like Lamont was on point.
The possibility of a rematch between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach is not just a fan desire but a highly probable event, especially considering Tank himself has openly expressed interest in settling the score. However, despite Tank's apparent willingness to run it back, it remains uncertain whether this rematch will materialize as his immediate next fight. Davis has several other potential opponents on his radar, and his team may prioritize a different redemption arc or business opportunity before circling back to Roach. Nonetheless, whenever the rematch eventually takes place, it will serve as a critical moment for Tank Davis, who will be eager to re-establish his dominance and erase the embarrassment stemming from the unexpected and controversial draw that marked their first encounter.
He wasn't wilding like usual, right?
Yeah.
And the rematch, he'll be able to prove himself. I don't really believe there was a reason to call out a knockdown if you don't call Roach's shit a knockdown as well. They both was on the knee, pause. They both took a knee. So it cancels each other's out. It's either both are knockdowns or none. And neither are, so what we talking about?
They definitely hate Tank. That part is a fact.
Nah,
I don't. I'm saying in general.
Us.
In general.
I'm just saying, like, couldn't wait.
He got to Mayweather level where people hate him.
When you do well enough, people look for you to.
That's good. Success breeds that. When you
that's a fact.
Either they love you or they hate you. There's no in betweens. No longer indifferent for you because everyone knows you.
Jaron Ennis, also known as Boots, provided an insightful perspective on the broader reaction to Gervonta Davis's performance. Ennis highlighted how much public perception and fan biases have colored the interpretation of the fight's outcome. According to Ennis, many boxing enthusiasts and casual fans alike bring preconceived opinions about Tank's persona into their assessment, which influences how they perceive his success or failure in the ring. Some fans were quick to tear apart Tank's performance, choosing to focus primarily on his struggles in the later rounds while dismissing his strong and aggressive start early in the fight. This polarizing response has sparked intense debates within the boxing community about whether the criticism Tank faced was fair and objective, or whether it was driven by personal bias against his public image.
You know I gotta ask you about fights. Gervonta Davis, draw with Lamont Roach. people looking at it as controversial because of the whole knee. What'd you think of the fight?
It was a great fight. You know, I had it 7-5 Tank, or you can make it a draw. But I feel like Lamont, he did good. He did a great job, actually. You know, I just don't think he did enough to pull it off. You know, and I feel like people was overlooking what Tank was doing in the first like 5-6 rounds. You know, he was like boxing and frustrating him a little bit. You know, but Lamont, like I said before, Lamont did a great job. You know.
Yeah, some people had it Tank, some people had it draw, some people had it Lamont. Do you think Tank gets a lot of criticism for not knocking Lamont out and Lamont not being in big names, so they overblow it?
I think so, yeah, and I feel like people just don't like Tank to a point where...
Ennis further emphasized that, although Tank Davis did not deliver the dominant performance many expected from him, it would be a mistake to completely disregard his early success in the fight. He stressed that the overall narrative surrounding this bout has evolved beyond just what happened in the ring. It has become deeply entangled with Tank's larger-than-life reputation and the public's divided perception of his career and character. The anticipated rematch will offer Tank a crucial opportunity to silence his critics, who have used the draw as ammunition against him, and to reassert himself as one of the premier fighters in his division. It will be a chance to reclaim his status and remind the boxing world of his capabilities.
Yeah,
overblow it?
I think so, yeah, and I feel like people just don't like Tank to a point where any little thing, just because he ain't knock him out, he probably feel as though that he lost, and he didn't, or it was a draw, you know. I feel like Tank was doing a lot of smart things in the beginning, moving a little bit too much, but I feel like he was still like frustrating and things like that, and I think Tank did a good job. Like, he looked sharp to me, you know. I don't know, people just be talking, you know. At the end of the day, you can't please everybody.
Legendary boxing figure Roy Jones Jr. also weighed in on the closely contested fight, offering his perspective on Roach's exceptional display of skill and experience. Jones, who has observed Roach's development over the years, warned that Roach should never have been overlooked or underestimated going into the bout. Having known Roach personally and having followed his journey in the sport, Jones was not surprised by Roach's poised and calculated performance against Tank Davis. According to Jones, Roach has always possessed the raw talent and refined skill set necessary to compete at the highest level, and his effort in this fight solidified that belief. Still, Jones acknowledged that public opinion remains split, as not everyone believes Roach did quite enough to claim a definitive victory in the eyes of the judges.
Presumably, Tank is supposed to, win this fight. This is a fight that there's not a lot of doubt about him coming out victorious in. So the talk shifts, and we got to know, Roy, from your perspective, Tank Shakur. When you think about that fight being a potential fight this year, how do you see it going?
I ain't gonna really think about that yet because I'm waiting after he finishes his fight with Roach. Roach is not just your average everyday opponent. Roach is a person who knows Tank, who's been around Tank his whole life. This is a different fight. You can't put Roach to the side like that. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not saying that he's gonna win the fight. I don't know that, but Roach cannot be this underrated like that. You understand? You gotta understand that Roach came from basically the same ecosystem as Tank came from. Roach is a very formidable opponent. So I'm not gonna talk about none of that till we get by Roach, because what I'm telling you about the other stuff don't really mean that right now.
Okay, let me ask you this, because this did happen.
I'm feeling good always. How you doing?
I'm always good. You're a special fighter. Tank's a special fighter. What do you like about him? What makes him different?
I like that when Tank come to fight, Tank come to knock you out. Tank don't come to just beat you by decision. He come to take you out. He come to try to get the job done best way he can. And he loves to come there and entertain the fans. He's not there to play around. He's trying to smoke you. And that's what life's supposed to be about.
Gary Russell Jr. offered a slightly different viewpoint, suggesting that Lamont Roach did not do enough to convincingly take the title from Gervonta Davis. Russell argued that although Roach performed admirably and fought on even terms with Tank, he ultimately fell short of decisively separating himself as the superior fighter. In Russell's eyes, when a challenger faces a reigning champion of Tank's caliber, simply fighting on equal footing is not sufficient to win the belt. The challenger must clearly outbox and outwork the champion to leave no room for doubt. According to Russell, Roach did not fully accomplish this in their first encounter, and that ambiguity is why the fight resulted in a draw rather than a decisive win for Roach.
He's 100% correct. Personally, I had Gervonta Davis up a round. Because whenever you have rounds where nobody's doing anything, I'm not just going to do what most people do, and especially people that don't like Gervonta Davis, which is just give the round to the other guy because Gervonta Davis didn't manage to knock him out that round. Okay, so this is Gary Russell Jr. clearly saying, man, no, I don't think Lamont Roach won that fight. You also had Al Bernstein. And Al Bernstein, I'm telling you, is a very, very straight, fair guy who I don't know if he was on that call, but he used to work with Showtime. I don't know if he was on there. I don't recall if I heard him. I think it was Rolly Ronaldo that was calling it. But Al Bernstein, who was a very, very objective person, said, hey, look, no. Sorry to break it to you, but Gervonta Davis won that fight. Yeah, Lamont Roach put up a really good fight, but Lamont Roach was not dynamic. He did not do anything to really separate himself from Gervonta Davis. He just kept it equal. He just tried to keep it even the entire fight. And that's not enough, again, to take the belt from the champion. Now, I do want to say that the people that thought that Lamont Roach won, I don't have any problem with that. I really don't have a problem with it at all. I personally, again, had a point for Gervonta Davis, but I could see how those swing rounds really could go, depending on who's looking at it, really could go different ways, right? But I had him winning. Larry Hazard, who was the ref, who was calling it on the air.
Before Gervonta Davis can seriously focus on the possibility of a rematch with Lamont Roach, he must navigate other professional obligations and commitments. The logistics of boxing, including mandatory fights, contractual agreements, and promotional scheduling, often mean that immediate rematches are not always feasible. It's entirely possible that Tank will need to face another opponent first before returning to settle unfinished business with Roach. This is not an unusual situation in the sport, as seen with the cases of fighters like Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, where anticipated rematches were delayed or sidetracked due to other pressing priorities. Fans may need to exercise patience as Tank's next steps unfold.
We're in a situation where we're going to hopefully get a rematch. Gervonta already had something scheduled, or at least negotiated. And I think Lamont Roach was already entering negotiations with Shakur Stevenson to get it done, right? So Gervonta can exercise a rematch clause. He does have a rematch clause, but again, I just don't really know whether or not that is going to take place whether or not that's going to take place next. And as I've said in other videos, they don't always happen next. Sometimes, like for example, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, they're not running it back. Devin Haney has not had a fight since he lost to Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia has not had a fight since he beat Devin Haney and then he got it turned over with Osterine.
Calvin Ford, Tank Davis's longtime coach, provided his candid reflections on the fight, offering valuable insight into his fighter's mindset and preparation. Ford admitted that Tank was not fully focused and mentally locked in during the bout, which he believes significantly impacted his overall performance. Additionally, Ford noted that the shared history between Tank and Roach gave Roach a unique advantage in the ring. Roach's familiarity with Tank's tendencies and style allowed him to effectively anticipate Tank's moves and craft intelligent counters throughout the fight. This prior knowledge contributed to the razor-close and highly debatable outcome, showing that sometimes familiarity can neutralize even the most dangerous fighters.
Him take his game to another level. What didn't he do in this fight that you felt he could have done and whatnot, and pretty much opened the fight up to being a draw?
Well, like I said again, they've been knowing each other since they were little. And Roach, he stepped up for the cause. He stepped up. You know what I'm saying? And again, Tank history. I always sit there and tell you I don't like knockouts, like punishment. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes things got to happen to make you get back to where you belong at. You know what I'm saying? And that was a good, skillful-ass fight. Skillful. Both of them wouldn't take certain chances. Some of them take chances. You know what I'm saying? We seen, it was like we was on a boat and it was just like this,
That concludes today's video coverage. Stay tuned for more updates, fight breakdowns, and exclusive boxing insights in our upcoming content. Until next time.